Hey everyone, Pete Calandra here, and today is episode 21 of Inside Track, which was a live stream series that I had been doing earlier in the year every Friday. Then, once the fall got here and my college teaching schedule and my film composing schedule got very busy, I put it on hiatus for a while, and I thought the last week of this year I would bring it back for one more episode for the time being. And thank you, Andre. And I thought I'd bring this back and do one last sort of recap of my film scoring class for the fall. Now, I had originally intended to go over the students' final project, but after I thought about it for a while, because of what I assigned to them, which I'll go over in a second, I thought there'd be a good chance that the video would get blocked. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I did was I found about 10 clips from well-known films, and I erased the music and cleaned up the dialogue and had somebody add some sound effects and sound design to fill out the stuff that we erased. And you know, these ranged from 2 minutes to 4 minutes long, stuff from Saving Private Ryan, stuff from Harry Potter, some Pixar things, the Coen Brothers, True Grit. So scenes from all these things, and the students were to score these. And I thought that if I had put all those videos up, the YouTube police would probably block that, which would defeat the purpose of this, which is an educational video. What I do know will get demonetized but still be allowed to be seen is what I assigned for the midterm, and that was to score the trailer for Loving Vincent. And so that's what we'll do today. We'll go over some of the projects that the students did for that midterm. And it's interesting to see, because this was basically the first film that many of them had scored, I would imagine. So before we get started, I teach at the Copeland School of Music at Queens College, which is in the City University of New York. I teach music technology classes. I teach film scoring. I teach composition. I've taught graduate students private composition lessons. I'm an adjunct there. I teach 2 classes a semester, and it's a nice supplement to my film scoring and putting out my own original music. I enjoy doing it. And I also get free health insurance for teaching 2 classes a semester, which that in itself is worth its weight in gold. My classes that I teach are combination classes. So what I mean by that is typically for undergraduate students, classes meet either 2 or 3 times a week for 50 minutes or 3 times a week, or for an hour and 20 minutes twice a week. But I get undergraduate students and graduate students in my class. So my classes are set up as graduate classes, and as such, they meet once a week for about 2 hours and 50 minutes, although I typically teach about 2:10 with no break in the middle. And the classes have been online since March of 2019. I haven't been back in a classroom. And in the spring, I'll also be doing things remotely as well. Some of the classes have been going back live. The performance classes, and next semester the full-time faculty will all have to teach at least one class on their schedule live and in person. But I'm an adjunct, so I teach from right here in my studio, and that has its benefits and its drawbacks. For the film scoring class, it's much, much better to teach it here in my studio because I have access to a lot of technology in my computer that is not available at the college. And also what this means is that I can actually show the inner workings of some of my own film scores, and it just makes things a lot easier. I can create a really good review video from a screen capture here, things I can't really do inside the campus. The college is set up really for live performing, for teaching music ed students, for theorists, for composers. We're behind the times as far as music technology goes, and we are working on that, and hopefully in the next couple of years we'll get hopefully an injection of cash that we can bring things up to snuff. But as of right now, it's a blessing that we can actually run these classes. So as I said, my classes are made up of undergraduate and graduate students, but that's 3 levels of students. So I've got undergraduate students who are taking the music and production minor, and these are typically students who they can play some guitar, they can play some piano, maybe they sing, they took lessons when they were a kid, and some of them are actually very talented. They just didn't want to go to school for music. They're taking sociology, they're doing CPA, they're doing physics, they're studying to be an elementary school teacher. There are all sorts of different majors, and some have 2 or even 3 minors. I don't know how they get all this stuff done, but they do. Then I've got music students who are taking these classes, and then I've got graduate students who are taking these classes. Typically, a vast majority of my graduate students come from the graduate jazz program, which is a fantastic program, and we attract students from all over the world. Literally, my classes are filled with students from South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, South America, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Mexico, France, England, Luxembourg, Austria, Italy, all over the place. It's really, they come to get the New York City experience, and frankly, going to a city university is infinitely cheaper, even as a foreign student, than going to Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music, the New School, all of these very private colleges that are incredibly expensive, or NYU. So we get a lot of foreign students, and it really bring a lot of life to the campus, and they really all very, very talented. What they're not talented at is music technology. Some have some training. Some of the students have taken a couple of semesters of sequencing with me, and you'll hear the difference. But I can't deny students the right to take these classes. Hey, Lee. I'm not sure I have yours in here, to be honest with you. Or maybe yours is the one that wasn't labeled. Okay. So we have some students that are writing in Sibelius, Finale. Some students that have been taking my classes, they're writing in Pro Tools. Some students that went to Berkeley as undergraduates, they know how to use Logic. I have one student who's working in Cubase, and they're students. So I asked them to go download the Spitfire Audio BBC Discover so that they would at least have decent sounds for their productions. But basically, the sequencing chops are from beginner sequencers, even if they're good composers, up to some of my students are actually pretty good at sequencing, and you'll hear that. So anyway, that's the deal. And so for the next hour or so, 50 minutes, hour, I'll be teaching a class again, going through this. I'm a little rusty with the live talking because it's been a few weeks since class ended. Hopefully we'll move forward without any glitches on my part. And anyway, leave comments in the description box. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, share, ring that bell to be notified. And if it's after the fact, I'll put chapters in the description box below so that you can navigate this at your own pace. Anyway, leave comments or questions down below. I'll try to get to them. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get right into it. Okay, so let's take a look at this trailer with no music. And let me make it a little bigger. Well, too big. There we go. That's pretty good. Here we go. It's 1 minute long. We'll just take a watch. And I added the SMPTE time code. Now, for those of you that don't know, each one of these images is hand-drawn or painted by an artist, and they are all strung together. This film rate is 24 frames per second, but there are actually 12 frames per second. They're just each for 2/24 of a second, I guess. and there's Vincent. If you haven't watched this movie, it's a movie I would highly recommend watching. It's a really beautiful, compelling story, really well done. You should read the wiki page about it. All right, so that's the trailer. Now, to make this easier for the students, what I did was I limited their choices. And what I mean by that is I found that 60 beats a minute, 90 beats a minute, and 120 beats a minute. If you write in one of these tempos, there are enough things that catch either right on the beat or right on an eighth note that you can start writing and not have to worry about tempo changes. You might have to do time signature changes or learn how to hit something on the and of a beat as opposed to on a beat. But it's takes one of the main things about timing to picture out of the student's hands. And I find that to be very helpful for the first piece of film that they're scoring. So you either pick 60 beats a minute, 90 beats a minute, or 120 beats per minute. And actually, now that I think about it, during one of the classes this semester, I actually scored the first half of this, and we went over the bit about the different tempi and how that changes the feel of the music. I'll have a link to that in the description box below, and in a couple of days from the live launch of this video. I'll go find it and put the link if anybody wants to check that out. So let's start here. And the very first piece we're going to play is by an undergraduate student who is a music major. And I think that this person wants to write music for films. So they've got a decent setup. They have good sounds, and they have talent and ability. But let's take a listen, and then we'll talk about some things I think they could have done to improve their score. All right, here we go. Okay, so my honest opinion about that is it's a beautiful piece of music, well written and well mixed and executed well. I just don't think it fits the trailer at all, right? I don't think it works with the way that what's going on with the screen. It's very slow. It's very romantic. This is not really, I know that the title is Loving Vincent, but there's all sorts of stuff going on here that's not indicative of the music, right? So he waits to start it, which is fine. And let me turn the volume up on this because it was a little soft so you can hear it a little better. All right, so I'm watching the pictures unfold, and they're going bum, dum, bum. They're unfolding at a pace, and the music is sort of not pushing you forward. And this is a trailer, so you want to have a little bit of energy with this, right? And there are all these quick, hard cuts as you're following the train at the beginning, right? So we got the train in the background, and then cuts to the train going over the trestle, train at night over another bridge, and then now we've got this guy walking, and it's just, the train is moving at a pace, and I don't think the music needs to be frenetic. Right, I agree, Andre. Music doesn't need to be frenetic, but there needs to be some motion. Okay, so that's the first thing. again, guy has talent. He wrote a beautiful piece of music. But when you're scoring to a film, you have to find that language that's appropriate for what's going on in the visuals and when you've got dialogue in the storytelling. That's another reason why I picked this. There's no dialogue to worry about for the first film that you're scoring. Okay, let's just go forward and talk about the next section. So, right, there's nothing catching that little action there with the guy with the yellow jacket on talking to the mailman. And then we get to this picture right after this. We're not catching that. It's just, the music is just playing. It's not really telling you the story as to what's going on. Right, and then we're in there, and it's building. Here he's building. And we're in a pub right now, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the pub. These people back here are talking, they're animated, he's kissing hands, he's moving, the camera's following him, and that is Vincent. And he's a couple of beats too late with Vincent, or he's early. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So he should have had that last measure be a couple of beats longer. So it should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, right? He could have had that be a measure of 2/4 added on that and gotten much closer to when you're seeing the back of Vincent's head. Let me do some editing. This is going to sound really rough and sloppy, but you'll get the idea, right, of what I'm talking about here. You see what I mean? He could have done something to build that up for another 2 beats. So let's... and then the other bit too that everybody... What he did good here was he ended in a good spot. Right? Maybe a beat or 2 early. Maybe his last chord should have landed when that L came down, which would have meant adding another beat. So in other words... You don't want to change tempo, but you can change meter. So if you add a 5/4 measure, it's like adding a fermata on beat 4. And then you can catch that downbeat there. And so that's what I have to say about this one. All right, so this next one didn't have the initials on the title, so I'm not sure whose this is. Maybe this is Lee Kaufman's. Because I don't see his in here, and this was everybody in the class. So anyway, I'm not really saying who the students' names are, but let's take a listen. Okay, so this is a case of the technology not helping out the composer, right? So, the sounds are a little old, and they're not really like cutting edge sound samples, and not having all the different articulations, using the same articulation for the left or the lower pitches and the melodic content. It almost sounds like somebody's playing it on the piano, except it's using a string sound, right? And again, I don't take off for that when I'm grading these, because they haven't taken any sequencing classes, right? They're doing, and I think this guy is a music ed major. So, I have to take all that into consideration when I'm grading. And I think that this was overall done very well. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk as if somebody was handing me this in and I was a director, so that I'll be a little bit more critical than I was during the class, for sure. All right, so he starts off really well, right? But I think that, so let's talk about orchestration. I think that boot-da-da, boot-da-da, boot-da, right? I think what would be really nice would be a pizzicato on the downbeat, and then da-da. Oh, what key is this in? Pizzicato, and then spiccato. Whatever the progression is, but pizzicato on the downbeat, and then spiccato strings, right? So that's the first thing I think. And then again, right, it sounds like they're using the same articulation all the way through. And this is where I think, had they split this out in a sequencer into short and long notes, then it would have been much more effective at the presentation. And the presentation really will help sell your piece, right? So again, the right hand, instead of ya, 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 but right, if it was spiccato. And then I do like the change here. And that would have been nice if that was, a different articulation than the beginning, because the sustain sounds nice there. And then he's got that, he keeps the bass line there. Well, I think it'd be really nice if, right, if the left-handed, instead of, right, that little added line there against the legato, smoother lines in the upper register would be a nice, again, momentum, just moving things forward and shifting the patterns every few bars instead of just keeping things the same over and over again. When you're writing absolute music, you can develop things out over a long period of time, and that's a skill that you really need to have. But when you're doing this, the film is giving you the structure, and making something that follows the film for your first assignment with this type of a bit is really essential. I think that those variations would really help out. And then right here, okay, so he's got this counter line in the upper hand, in the upper register. Dee-da-da-da-da. Well, I think that would be really nice if that was woodwinds, right? So you're introducing a different texture in there, a different color, and you can just hear that it would be strings and then woodwinds, strings and then woodwinds, back and forth. And that, again, gives you a sense of, like, the composition is progressing. The second time through there, after that legato section, he's adding a counter melody in the upper part that goes along with that, the same riff in the beginning. To enhance that, you use your orchestration by bringing in woodwinds, or that could be a French horn, or something, just a different color, or a combination of a French horn and an oboe in unison, right? Something like that. Anything. And the other thing is that all the melodic lines are going down, I think. No, they are going up in the, right? No, they are going up. I take that back. Right. So right here, the lower line gets a little bit. Right, with that little triad there, I think that the if there was a line that was just a little bit more legato and flowing there against the top part instead of something that's so triadic, I think that and also just so regular with the rhythm, that would give you a little bit of that relaxed feeling there. And then again, you're pushing and pulling with the different feels, which adds to momentum. Right, and then right here, well, what if you change the pattern? Something, right? So it's not just a continuation of the same thing, right? Because you're in a different, the picture is doing something different here. First of all, you're in black and white, right? And that's Vincent, right? You're seeing him for the first time. And there you see him there. And then the slowing down, that, right, should end with the guy with the tear. Because again, he's going into this bar. There's all sorts of activity happening. You know, you got the girl with the that little fan there on the right. You know, there's a lot going on in that room, and you're sort of slowing down here. And you're losing the momentum, right? And he's twitching away, and it should actually move until you see that image of him. And then the other thing too is here at the end, this pyramiding of all these sounds with samples is something you really have to be careful about. Right? It's a good idea, but if you're playing, let's say you're playing a sample that's got 8 strings per note. If I play 2 notes, my size of my orchestra is effectively 16. If I play 3 notes, it's 24. If I'm playing a chord like this with 7 notes, that's 7 times 8. That's 56 instruments, right? That's not anywhere near sounding real. So if you wanted to do a pyramiding chord like that, it would be best to change to a very small chamber group or even solo strings. And it would be even better to combine it with other instruments where it's not all just strings. So, yeah. Okay. Moving forward. So this is an undergraduate student, and she's had 3 semesters of audio MIDI with me. So she's pretty good with sequencing, and she's a very talented student. She's a music ed major and an MAP minor, music and production, and also a drama minor. So she's got a bunch of stuff going on. And I think that she's going to graduate school at Brooklyn College. Brooklyn, it's part of the CUNY system. They've got a really cool new media studies program, and they've got a whole space at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is really wild considering that my dad used to work there in the 1940s, and now they've got educational facilities there. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, overall, this is the best one yet. Okay, she did a lot of great stuff here. It goes on too long. It needs to end it sooner. And the only thing that I would say, generally speaking, is that I love the short motives. I love the way that she changed colors. I love the way that she caught different things and she didn't make it be too obvious. I just would have liked a couple of spots where there was, maybe even one spot where there was a longer line, right? But overall, this is one of the better ones that was handed in, actually, from what I remember. So let's take a look at this one. So the way she structures this is that she breaks it up into the first two scenes, this one, and she's building, and then now when you see this guy's back and the people, she changes the feel. And then when the guy with the yellow sport jacket comes in, she changes it again. And nothing is in your face, nothing is, it's not like, it doesn't sound forced. It sounds really nice and it flows really well. And also the way she changes the pattern in this area here. Right, as opposed to like the first measure. And then the next measure. And I like how this line here in the pizzicato lower strings, it doesn't end on the downbeat. It sort of goes through and over the bar line. And I love stuff like that. That really is beautiful. And just the way she changes the colors right there when that guy comes in. It's really, it's like everything I taught her, she listened to it. It made me feel so good to hear it. Right, and notice here, there's a little bit of a conflict going on, but it's not over the top. And so she does that, right? What she does is there's a little bit of something going on there, and she indicates that, but she doesn't beat you over the head with it. Right? Yeah, actually, I take that back about the long line. She's got one right here. It just ends a little soon. I wish that it would continue on. It's a nice transition here. Right, and then nice transition into the bar here, or the cafe. Right, so just right in there, that it's just a little bit too jerky for me. That's the one spot I think could be a little bit better composed. And then now she needs to start moving towards ending right there. And then having something that just fades out. It just goes on for too long. That's the big thing. And it's interesting because there are some trailers that kind of fade out. And if you listen to television commercials, they often fade out. They often don't have a hard ending. So, but that's a really well done for your first effort at scoring something. I think that's an excellent job. Yeah, Mondo. I think that she's using the Spitfire Discover series. I do think she bought after this during the Black Friday event. I think she bought the chamber strings. Which I think is one of my favorite strings. Okay, so I was very happy with that. Okay, so this woman is a graduate jazz vocal major. And I think she took a semester of sequencing with me. I believe so. It's hard to remember, but let's take a listen. All right, so this is one where the presentation does not help with the students' ideas. So for the first bit is that it just starts too loud. It should, see how I've just added that fade in as opposed to this? Right, so for this whole first bit, everything is at one dynamic level, which sort of takes away, and again, I don't take points off for this when I'm grading this, but I'm just talking now. If anybody out there is watching, these are things that you need to concern yourself with, right? Musicians animate their sound. String players have their fingers on the strings. They're vibrating or not vibrating. The pressure of the bow is constantly moving. Wind player is blowing wind or vibrating a reed. A brass player is vibrating a mouthpiece, brass. It's exciting air, and they can control how that sound unfolds over time. And to give a more convincing and emotionally appealing presentation of your music, you should be doing that stuff. Even if you are using Discover from Spitfire, which does not have velocity changing dynamic layers, but you can do things like dynamics. If you want to make the timbre change, learn how to use a low pass filter to change the way that strings unfold. I've got videos about that for using these inexpensive sample libraries to just enhance them more using your production skills, to take the library and the tools and automation to bring out more of the dynamics. So let's take a listen to this beginning. I'll fade that in again. Right, so everything's at one level, and then the harp comes in. And it would be really nice if things decrescendoed, and then when the harp comes in, you hear it more as a new event, instead of there's a harp there, I hear it, but it's kind of fighting for space with the strings. Right, you can hear how that is all at that volume, and there's that one note that's lasting so long. Right, and so that makes it, that B. And like at some point, even if you did something like, to help the harp coming in, where you're moving it just a little bit. Just a little motion. It just gets to be too long with that one note. Now, look, there are ways to play a note, right? Right. I just was pedaling that B in the right hand, but my left hand was playing freely different figures, and that's okay. Or you could do... change the octave, or, you've got that flute. You could have a flute coming in an octave higher, fading in and out with a B if you wanted to pedal point it. And so these are just orchestrational things and sequencing technique things that I think would enhance what's there. Now there's some sort of mallet in the background, and she's got that figure going on, and that's fine, but I'd like I'd like to see something that's a little bit more flowing, right? Something like that, where it's, instead of it being broken up. Right, it's a little bit jagged there, and I think something that's nice and flowing would be a little bit more appropriate. And I like that little bit there. Except that it starts a beat too late. Bop, bop, bop. And I do like what's on the crying man face. But that needs to change into something that's moving a little bit more here. And I like this change here. I do like that chord there. And I do like this way this is moving. See, right when at the end starts getting into some really cool stuff that would have been a little bit more appropriate towards the beginning there. Dee da 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 da, and end right on the letter T. Na. Just end on that, on the T, instead of changing the chord there afterwards. All right. So this is another graduate student, a music ed major. All right, another one that could have either faded out sooner or ended sooner. So this fellow's obviously going for the Michael Nyman, Steve Reich, Philip Glass, systems, minimal music-ish kind of thing. And there's a lot of good things here, but other places where there could be some improvement. So let's take a look from the beginning. I like the piano figure, it's beautiful. Key of C. So far, so good. I like that. Right, so that half step rub there. Nice. Okay, so let's continue on. Now, I can see how that works, right? He's got the bassoons doing that insistent thing, and he's transitioning into that from this slight confrontation here, because we're going to see Vincent walking here. Right, so what's starting to get a little bit too predictable are the long sustaining notes in the melodic content, right? When we get in, he's got dun 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 dun. There could be some stabs in that area there instead of the long bit, and you could change key possibly, right there. Da 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 da. And then here again with the pyramiding, all using, you know, that one MIDI string patch, and it just sounds so fake that it takes away from the quality of the composition. Do da 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 da. Why can't there be like instead of that long sustainy thing, there could be sort of a counter thing in the upper part. Something like that. Let's see. You know, instead of having those long sustainy things, maybe something similar to what I just jammed out on the piano. And I guess with this one, what I would probably do is start the fade out here. Yeah, a little longer than that. All right. Meryl, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that vasf.tech. And this next one. Okay, so for this next one, we have a score. Let's see. Oops. All right, so we'll look at it this way. And we'll make the score bigger. So this is a graduate student, very talented musician. Okay, so again, it went on a little too long. So there's a lot of good stuff here. Let's take a listen, and I'm not going to move around with the score because that's difficult for me to watch what's going on. So I want to take one more listen and watch the screen. Let me turn it up a little bit. It's a little soft. Okay, so I really have nothing to say about the beginning of this, and I'll show you where I do have something to say. So the beginning is fine. I like the dum dee da ba bum. I like that figure in the piano. Yeah, what I would say is I would start it without those pizzicato strings. I would just go dum dee da ba ba with the piano figure there, with no pizzicato strings. And have it come in there. So this is all very well done. It's got a very French sound to it, a little tension right there, and I love that change right there. That's really well done. So right there, it starts getting that the music is not really hooking up with what's going up on the screen right there, right? There's a little conflict, and the music is still doing that sort of melancholy. Right, and that's a very intense look. And sneaking here, right? I like that chord on that guy. That's beautiful. But what I would like to see happen there after that chord is more of a build-up towards the end. We're sort of petering out to the end here. Love that change there. Really beautiful. Could have a little bit more activity there. A little bit more. It's running, and then now the sad, that's a beautiful chord, and then now let's start building and getting things moving a little bit more forward. Right up to where the letters start coming in. Right to that point there. Right? I don't see the motion to that point. I see like a composition that's being written as if it's an absolute piece of music, as opposed to having to fit with the structure of the film. So that's what I have to say about that. But has a lot of stuff that I really love up until about the halfway point. And then from that point on, a little bit of work could make it a lot better. I think that he's using the full BBC orchestra. And I believe he's been sequencing in Logic for quite some time, so he does a good job with that. All right, so this is another graduate jazz student. So this one's interesting. I think he's going for the Satie vibe on this. Eric Satie, the French, which, is appropriate for the time period in a certain way. But what I would like to, so it's, right. So let's say I was going to do this, right? Let me play something along here. right? I just improvised something along with that and reacting it in the style that he did it. And what I didn't get from this particular one was a sense of moving. I got a really nice mood and a real beautiful, beautiful idea at the beginning, but it was too static the whole way through, right? And I just did a demonstration as to a possible solution for that. And that wasn't perfect. I certainly would not hand something like that in, but it was just sort of an example of you start out simply and you have the music sort of move along with what's going on. And are there times where you're, playing something? Are there times where playing something like that is appropriate? Yes. Not here, though. All right, so we've got 2 more to go. Let's go to the very last one, actually, because I'm at an hour now and I don't want to go much further. So this is another jazz student, and he's taken several semesters of sequencing with me. Very talented musician. Yeah, let's take a listen to this one. Okay, ended in the right spot. Excellent. So a lot of good stuff there. There's only a couple of things that I'm going to talk about here. He's got that ostinato figure in the strings. My only thing is that I think when the melody comes in, I would change it a little bit and not have it be the same thing repeating over and over again. I'd keep the same vibe, but instead of being da 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 da, maybe da 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 dee, and keep the motion moving with the melodic content. Because otherwise, it starts sounding like Eyewitness News a little bit. Yeah, right in this area here. It's just that rhythm is going on a little bit too long. Nice change there. And I love the trills on the flutes. Really adds to it. And I like this coming up here. He's got that nice chord there, and you're getting motion, it's moving, and then now, right, picking up. Good. Nice brisk change there. Yeah, again, as I'm getting towards those last couple of chords, I would probably vary the ostinato rhythm in the top. Yeah. All right, everyone. So that's an hour of doing this. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been helpful. The students worked really hard this semester. Their final projects were definitely better than this, but this was, again, their first attempt at scoring a film. And I think that they all, even the ones I criticized dramatically, I think they all did a great job, and they all got really good grades on this, and I was happy with this. my wish would be that I could teach a second semester of this where we could take some of these film clips and they could write out scores and we could have live players playing them and they could run sessions. And that's something I'm working on. Maybe in a year or two, we can offer that class. So anyway, if this has been helpful, give a thumbs up. Please subscribe, ring that bell, leave any comments or questions below. And like I said, there'll be some links down below and there'll be timestamps in a couple of days. It's getting close to the end of the year. This will be my last YouTube video for 2021. I'll be back after the new year. I've got some cool stuff planned and stuff filmed already that I have to edit, performance videos. I actually did one today where I was playing on my mini mode back there through some Strymon gear, getting some really fun stuff. But thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate it. I've got a lot of new subscribers over the past 2 weeks. New for me, a large number. I'm still a small channel, but thank you so much for subscribing. And also just a shout out to all the people on VI Control that have been promoting my videos. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anyway, I've been Pete Calandra. You guys have a great New Year's. Stay safe out there. It's getting crazy with COVID again. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.